All right. I think we're working this time. I just tried to go live a minute ago and it gave me a message that it was having trouble going live. So it looks like we're in business. We're going to get rolling here. A couple of people will start coming in. And I always want to start with something that I've got just for my own personal collection. And then we're going to invite some of our guests to join. First of all, we had Marcus Striplin from a band a lot of Dalsites and Austinites might know, Pleasant Grove, but currently his project is Margaret Chavez. Not going to say unfortunately, but fortunately he got called back to work. He's, like many of us, has been sitting, waiting for the call, and he got the call, so he had to go into work today. We really miss him. He and I are going to actually do a one-on-one on our own and record that and get that loaded up later on. So, Marcus, sorry that you couldn't be a part of this, but I'm so glad that you're out there making some money finally, man. So thank you for being willing to join us, and we'll catch you later on. But we also have some other guests. We have Sena and Caleb Barnard from Electric Eye in Oak Cliff. That'll be joining us. And then we have Bruce and possibly Julie Webb from the Webb Gallery in Waxahachie. Both of these guests are kind of dream guests for me. I'm really excited to have them on. I've wanted to kind of get the format of this down for a while before I invited them in. And I'm really excited and really pleased that so many people that I've reached out to, sometimes, I kind of know them or I know them well, but there's other cases where I've reached out to complete strangers and everyone's been just real sporty to come on board. So anyway, we're going to go ahead and get going. What I wanted to share was something from my personal collection. This was something that was given to me by my mom, and I always record these and send them to my mom via YouTube later on because she's out in the middle of nowhere, Damascus, Virginia. But I've always been kind of a curious kid, and something will get stuck in my head, and I'll ask a question, and it sets off just a ton of research. And the thing that got stuck in my head one day was I was thinking about all the cartoons growing up and other, like the Three Stooges and stuff that were taking, shows where you had the town drunkard or you had someone that just had tied on one too many, and they started singing this song, and that song, and you may recognize it, is How Dry I Am. Matter of fact, I YouTubed it and Googled it earlier, and there's just instance after instance after instance of this character going, how dry I am. That song, right? Well, why was that so common in so many different cartoons? Saw it a lot in Warner Brothers, but it's also in an episode of The Twilight Zone. I think I saw it in Gunsmoke. Well, it turns out that it's a really, really old song. It's attributed to Irving Berlin, but there's instances of it before then. Matter of fact, the tone, the dun 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 dun. I'm not a good singer, but anyway, that key progression or that note progression is actually found in a sonata by Beethoven. It became a little bit of a pub song, and then became kind of a drinking song, and then it really blew up during Prohibition, where it was kind of an abstinent song, but then the comedy of Warner Brothers and Looney Tunes and all those were to make the drunk character singing this Prohibition song. Anyway, my mom was in an antique store, and I know this is going to be backwards for y'all, I think, but she found this cup that actually has this song on it, How Dry I Am. So I thought that was pretty funny. In doing some research before I was coming on here, I also found that there was a Westinghouse dryer from 1954 that played a bell, not the tone that we would know from our own dryers, but it actually played bells, and it would play the tune How Dry I Am when the cycle was done and your clothes were dry. I thought that was pretty funny. As I was preparing for this, the other thing is it's a tune that goes to other songs, and when I was singing it or listening to it earlier, my wife said that's an old spiritual song or like a church song, and something about trusting in Jesus or something like that. So it sounds like, it's one of those kind of songs where it's just been used a million different ways. All right, I've rambled on enough. let's go ahead and bring our first guest. Like I said, Marcus wasn't able to join us, so we're going to go ahead and see if I can get Marie and Caleb in here. So, man, Instagram, you better not let me down. It has been a little squirrely. I just tried to get started earlier, and I've tried to add them in, and it wouldn't let me go live at all. Hey, there y'all are.
Okay, it works.
Awesome. Pretty easy, right? How are y'all?
Good. How you doing, man?
Doing good. Hey, I really appreciate y'all joining me. We've known each other just for me being a client at your shop, and run into each other occasionally. So, when I reached out to you, it was kind of a shot in the dark, and I really appreciate y'all coming on.
That was fun, man.
Yeah. So how's your day been? How are y'all holding up?
Doing all right, just posted up here at the house and
making ribs.
Yeah.
Making ribs right now.
Y'all are eating, well, no, I can't say that. I was about to say y'all are eating better than I am, but my wife's making chicken pot pie, so I don't want to. No. Yeah, I tell you what, I've probably eaten 6 of my last 9 meals have included Bisquick, so I'm kind of, we're out of the box. We're almost done with that Bisquick box. But anyway, so when I invited y'all on, we didn't prearrange what it is that y'all were going to show. The reason I reached out to you is I like the aesthetic of your shop. For folks that don't know, Caleb and Marie both are tattoo artists and artists outside of the tattoo arts, but tattoo artists in Oak Cliff. And your shop is one that's got a certain vibe. It's got an aesthetic to it that I really dig. And just because I'm a fan of your work as well as that aesthetic, I thought it'd be interesting to have y'all on and see what y'all brought. So without further ado, y'all want to kind of tell us what you want to show?
You go first?
Sure. Yeah, I'll go first here.
Okay.
Drawing here. I don't know if you can really. It's hard to tell with the glare. Damn, I should have took it out of the.
No, it's good. It's good.
This is from Richard Stell.
Uh-huh.
That and anyone that tattoos in Texas knows who Richard Stell is, and anyone that tattoos anywhere in the world that's worth a fuck knows who Richard Stell is.
Yeah.
But this is a drawing he did in Prismacolor, just black and white Prismacolor. But he did it in like 2000, and I watched him do it at the shop. He was doing it for someone's book. I don't want to say the person's name because I'm not sure if it was them that was putting the book on, or supposed to do it, but it never got made. But he did this one, and he did another one. The first one he did, he ripped up and threw in the trash. And he was doing this, and I was watching him do it. It's amazing. And I said to him, hey, he was like, oh, this fucking sucks, and he was going to throw it away. And I was like, hey, can I have that? And he was like, no. And he just threw it in the garbage. And so on top of, bloody paper towels and God knows what else in a tattoo shop garbage can, right? and it was cool because he walked away and I was like, I'm getting that thing, So I dug it out of the trash, which he hated. Anyone that's ever worked with Richard knows that he hated that shit when we would take stuff out of his garbage can,
Yeah.
Anyone that worked with him, we've all done it. We'd watch him sketch stuff, throw it away, start stuff, throw it away, and we've all pulled stuff out of his garbage can before,
Gotcha. Yeah.
But and I took this out, and he didn't crumple it up or rip it up or anything like that. So I took it out, cut it out, framed it, whatever. 3 years later, I went back. I think it was like 2000 or something. I think when I brought him back to sign it, it was 2003. Yeah. So I think it's like 3 years later, and I brought it back into the shop, and I said, hey man, will you sign this for me? And he was like, what? And I showed it to him, and he looked at it, and he was like, you motherfucker. Signed it and kind of gave me like a little smile, and handed it back to me, and I knew, I was like, oh man, he knew that I was going to take that out of the garbage can for sure,
Yeah.
But never said anything, and he was super cool about it, and I'm stoked on it. It's super cool. There's no prints of it or anything like that anywhere.
It's one of a kind, right?
Yeah, no one has it, so I don't know. I love
Okay.
it though. It's
All right, cool.
awesome.
I know Rich. I didn't know Richard personally, but I know a lot of people that worked with him, apprenticed
Sure.
under him, were inspired by him. Did either one of y'all apprentice with him or work with him at any time, or
I
just knew
worked.
him from the
Yeah,
community?
I met him. I was living in Buffalo, New York, and I was a tattoo apprentice up there. And I would fly down and get tattooed by him. And after when my apprenticeship was over, after 2 years, he was like, "Hey, man, if you want a job, come on down." And
Yeah.
I spent like a year before that flying down and working, getting tattooed by him, and working with him for like a week at a time for like a year. And yeah, and he offered me the job, packed it up, came down, and it was awesome. And I worked for him for a few years, and it was great. It
Yeah.
was awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
one of a kind.
yeah, that's what I've heard, and kind of your story alludes to that personality that he had. I only know it by the stories that I've heard, but um, I know when he passed, it had a resounding impact throughout the tattoo community. So, and it also looks like it was that print that you just showed, or that one of a kind piece of art that you showed, definitely kind of hits y'all's aesthetic as well. If you go to either one of your pages, your Instagram pages, you really see a lot of that black and minimal color. I think is that a good way to say it?
Yeah, Richard was like great at like. There's like, I mean, there's a lot of detail like in this,
Yeah,
but there's a certain simplicity to it too, like he did this tattoo on my arm right here, this skull.
yeah.
That's 20 years old.
Oh wow.
And yeah, but it's awesome, but it's minimalist, there's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of skin showing through. And yeah, he had like the perfect balance of line work, black and color, and skin. Skin was
Yeah.
very important. He'd always say skin, skin, skin. You got to have some skin showing through in a tattoo. You can't saturate it. It doesn't look as good.
Right. Right.
But yeah, he's a Texas tattoo legend. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
like when I think about Texas tattooing, I think like, Richard Stell, and of course there's a few others.
Yeah.
But that's Texas tattooing to me. That's
That's
what drew
really
me to
cool.
the state. So
Yep. Yep. Cool. What else did y'all want to show?
I got some stuff. All
I
right.
got some
Okay.
stuff.
I got some stuff. So I wanted to show and tell just a couple of things out of my personal art collection that are super near and dear to my heart because of my New Mexico roots.
Okay.
So, I'm from New Mexico, right?
Yes. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm from Santa Fe, born and raised there. And when I was about 14, I started participating in this annual festival called the Traditional Spanish Market. And what that is just a group of artists that take these traditional art techniques and make sort of religious artwork with it. So I wanted to show you, I didn't do this, but this is one of my favorite ones that I have. My friend Alcadio did this, and it's just killer.
Oh wow.
So
That is really cool.
isn't it cool? Let me get up close there. Oh yeah, it's awesome. So you can see, I mean, there's dimension to it. It's so awesome. So let me tell you a little bit about.
Is it looking at? Is it a piece inside of a frame, or is it all just one, like a carving?
It's all one piece.
So
So
there's like a little.
yeah.
Gotcha.
The
Okay,
whole
that is
concept
killer.
behind doing stuff like this is you're kind of walking yourself through what it would be like to be in like 1600s era New Mexico, where Santa Fe was already a city. So it was a city in like 1610.
Uh-huh.
So it's really, really old. But when the first Spanish colonists went over there, they were kind of abandoned by the crown of Spain. So you have got this really super hardcore Catholic community that's just been like deserted in the desert, right? So you don't have anything to paint with, but you need your icons because you're stuck out in the middle of nowhere. So what do? You got to figure out how to get everything you need from the land. So that means going out and finding your own wood and hand adzing the panels. So they would create these like raised panel looking things just by carving and adzing the wood.
Uh-huh.
And then they would go and look for gypsum. So there's gypsum all over New Mexico, and they would go and find this gypsum, grind it up, mix it with like an animal hide glue, and turn it into like a gesso, like a sizing.
Uh-huh.
They would fashion paintbrushes out of horsehair, and they would make their own pigments just by finding like iron ores, oxides, anything you could find in like the rocks or the clay or the dirt in the area surrounding New Mexico. So it was very, very DIY.
That is really cool.
Yeah, so everything has kind of this really folky look to it, and everything is handmade. So I'll show you another one of my favorite pieces. So they would also do sculptural works too. So this is a Mary Magdalene. I don't know if you can get that one in there.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, she's really, really wonderful. And they would, you know, find pieces of aspen in like the arroyos, and they would use the aspen wood to carve these sculptural pieces. And then the same thing, they would just like gesso it, paint it. And then for a sealer, they would find pinon trees that are all over New Mexico, and they would try to find the sap. And I've got like a big old stash here. This is pinon sap.
Okay.
I forage for it every time I go home.
Wow.
And
I forged some of that too.
oh yeah, you forage it. I taught him how to find it. I was like, this is how you find it.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Yeah, like,
Hey, I apologize. You're using a term that I'm not familiar with. I'm completely self-taught when it comes to anything painting. Gesso, what is that?
oh, it's like you would consider it like a sizing. So like a ground, you know, like if you had a canvas, you would gesso it before you painted it.
Okay, is that where you like put the blank color?
That's right.
Like you may put like a beige or a black or whatever. Okay, cool. All right, cool.
The white stuff.
Yeah.
So to do the final step, which is to do the sealer, you get that pinon sap and mix it with like an alcohol, a strong alcohol, and it makes this waterproof varnish.
Okay.
So start to finish, like every single step of this artistic process is like hand done. You know, you're not buying stuff, you're making it. And of course, I buy stuff. I'm not going to go out and like grind up some rocks right now.
Right.
You know, if I had more time, I would.
That's really cool. So this market in Santa Fe, it still takes place?
They had to cancel it this year.
Oh, bummer. Yeah, a lot of that stuff's getting canceled, right? But
yeah, but hopefully next year, you know, I'm going to try to make some pieces for next year. Early.
Yeah, I saw a comment as these were scrolling through that someone bought some of your work at this market.
Yeah.
When does it normally take place?
End of July. It's usually the last weekend of July. And hopefully, you know, fingers crossed it'll happen next year, because it's a dying art. You know, all the old viejitos that do it they're getting old, and they're retiring, and they're passing away, and there's not a lot of people to take their place.
Yeah.
But it's an art that's really, really specific to northern New Mexico, and to see it die would be such a shame.
Yeah. Does it have your style, Marie? Well, both of you, but like when people see my tattoos, they'll come up and ask me, "Hey, is that one of Marie Sena's tattoos?" You have a very strong signature to your look. Is that influenced by your time in Santa Fe, or is?
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Okay, because what you're just sharing there had I don't know what it is. I don't know how to describe your aesthetic, or you know, I'm kind of I don't know what the word is. I'm a moron when it comes to that sort of thing. But how did that have an influence, or how does that come through in your own artwork? Am I making sense in that question? I'm trying to figure out. Yeah, what am I seeing that's common in what you just showed? Because there's pieces like, especially that Jesus piece, I can kind of see influences on your own work there, and I'm just trying to figure out how that translates or how that got it. Yeah, there you go.
Oh yeah, well,
absolutely.
When you're raised like super Catholic, it never leaves you.
Gotcha.
It never leaves you. So this stuff it's always gonna be inside of me.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. So right now, tattoo shops aren't open yet. Is that's going to be another phase later on?
I'm thinking mid to late May, maybe.
Okay. All right. But some of your artwork, both of y'all have artwork that's available online, correct?
Yes, we have a website, electriceyestudio.com, and you can buy prints, originals. We got some shirts too.
Yep, I wear one of your shirts all the time. I love it.
Oh,
So,
nice.
yeah, I want to encourage my friends or anyone that's watching. I think a lot of the people that are watching are actually friends of y'all's already, but check out your website. Go out there and support y'all by buying those pieces. It's important right now. So,
Well,
hey,
we appreciate it, man.
yeah, for
Thank
sure,
you
for sure.
Thank
What's
you.
that?
Thank you for inviting us.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure. I really, again, as you're sitting there kind of explaining everything about this market and these artists, it reminds me of, sitting and getting tattoos by you, because a lot of times we'll sit there and this conversation just evolves, and I walk out with a tattoo and an education. It's a lot of fun. So appreciate y'all.
Absolutely, man. Thank you so much.
Yeah. I wish you all the best, and we'll be seeing y'all soon. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Cool. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thank you. Bye.
All right. That was really cool. A lot of times I just get well, I'm kind of flummoxed here, but anyway, there's things that I hear in a conversation that makes me want to go out later on and study more. And I don't know anything about Santa Fe and that whole history there, going back to the 1600s and how it was abandoned by the crowd. I'm going to be on Wikipedia later tonight reading all about that, because that just seems so interesting. Cool. I really appreciate Marie and Caleb coming on. They are honestly some of the best people I've ever met. And one thing that's really cool is their tattoo studio. It is, I believe it's off Jefferson and Oak Cliff. It is literally just a stone's throw from the Texas Theater. And for those of you outside of Dallas, maybe outside of Texas, the Texas Theater is actually where Lee Harvey Oswald was apprehended after the assassination of JFK. So they're actually just right down the street from that. All right, so our next guest is Bruce Webb. Bruce, I've met Bruce through Oddfellows. He has a gallery. He and Julie have a gallery down in Waxahachie, Texas. It's Waxahachie, not Waxahachie. But anyway, we're going to be bringing him on board. Let me see if he's ready here. And cool, got him. Again, this is another one where I don't know what Bruce is bringing on board, but this is a guy that just is a huge. Oh, hey, both of you, cool.
Hi.
All
yeah,
right.
You got Julie too.
How are y'all?
Great.
Good. Hey, I was just telling them about the Webb Gallery. So the Webb Gallery down in Waxahachie, probably one of the most interesting. I'm sorry, I'm losing the word here. I'm a memory. Sorry, not studio. What is that? Gallery. The Webb Gallery. One of the most interesting galleries around, much less just in Waxahachie. So so a lot of your collections in the gallery are outsider art, really spiritualism. Have influences from spiritualism and just these. I don't know. I'm doing it disservice. Let me just stop there and let y'all kind of talk about the Webb Gallery, and then I'm very interested to see what y'all brought. So, can you tell us a little bit about Webb Gallery?
Sure.
We're actually up above Webb Gallery where we live in our house. But
I wasn't expecting a tour. Just kind of
like there's a thin veil between what we collect up here and what you see down there, and
right.
Kind of the whole basis for what we do is about sharing things that we're passionate about, and we've been collectors first and foremost for the whole time that we've been selling art. It's all about our own passion of collecting that has kind of fueled our interest to go out and visit artists and to start to offer things for sale back years ago. But
we started out as antique dealers and then started buying folk art and then met more and more artists, and then it's all a common aesthetic, but it's just all about us and what we love.
Yeah.
I guess for me, it kind of started with my grandparents lived in South India. They were missionaries. They're both from small towns in Kansas. And in the 1920s, they became converts of the evangelical Assembly of God movement.
Okay.
And first, they were sent to the Kentucky mountains, and my grandmother was shot at, you know, and trying to build churches in little towns or something. And so I guess they figured if they could survive in eastern Kentucky, they could survive anywhere. So they were offered a missionary appointment in Palghat in South India. And so they went to India and started to collect wood carvings and things that when they came to Waxahachie in 1952, they brought a lot of the things back that they had collected. And so I grew up around a lot of wood carvings of elephants and different like Hindu deities, and also my grandparents' library, books about Hinduism, Islam, mysticism, and you know, I'm an only child. My mom's an only child. She was born in India, so that's kind of
cool.
The thing that's resonated. But my parents started to set up at the Canton Flea Market in the 70s, and that's kind of where I got a flea market education. And when I say flea market education, you kind of like have to find that item that you're looking for amongst all the other stuff that's at a flea market. So it teaches you to like really kind of hone your eye in on certain things. And so we started to set up at Canton and flea markets in Dallas first, and then in Austin, and then going as far away as Massachusetts to set up at the Brimfield antique shows, which are actually going on now, and I think they're canceled for the rest of the year as far as I know. But it's all about that flea market culture that's kind of guided a lot of what we do. And
you to get to your things.
So
no, we got this is this is good, but I definitely want to see the things.
Kind of a two-part thing.
I could sit and talk with y'all for hours.
We were interested in collecting old folk art by anonymous artists for the most part, wood carvings, interesting fraternal artifacts. And one of the first things that I really gravitated to is the memory jug. And I happen to have one right here. That's a pretty good example. This one has a mirror inset on it, like probably an old advertising shaving mirror. And it's essentially one of those crock jug. I think this was like some kind of Italian wine or something that it would be covered in a plumber's putty or something like today. You would use Durham's Rock Hard, a water-soluble putty, and then you would take all the things that you would find in your granddad or grandma's trinket box or desk drawer and immerse it into that wet media and let it dry. And then often they would be given a gold wash and it would be placed on the fireplace mantle or saved as an heirloom. So it's something about just like the plethora of objects on the memory jug that really fascinate me. And this one's actually the first one that that we bought at the Fair Park flea market back in 1987. So we've been collecting them that long. Whoops, I realized, something just came loose. And that can't happen. So I'll
So when
it'll be glued on later.
Yeah. So when were these being made? When was this kind of a thing?
So kind of judging from the objects on the jug, you can get a general idea of it. But the literature that I found written about memory jugs are in some of the hobbyist magazines of the 1920s and 30s, where they actually talk about people putting things on memory jugs. So from 1890, kind of the Victorian era, you probably would find them as early as like the 1850s, 1860s. But on up, till today, I teach a class a couple times a year at Oil and Cotton in Oak Cliff about making memory jugs. And I think they've got a class kind of tentatively scheduled later this summer. But it's just a really great way to deal with all that fun trinkets and
Yep.
stuff. And you'll often find really historic items, and every time you look at it, I think you see something
different, right?
Something different or something new. And so it's
and they're coming off by the
I'm handling. They're actually quite fragile, and so but I really love the memory just because of that plethora of strange objects that are all kind of somehow joined together in a weird way. That media that sticks it all together is really fascinating to me. And then from collecting the memory jugs, we started to visit self-taught artists on the way to the Atlanta Don Scott antique show that we would go to once a month. We would take that road, I-20, between Waxahachie and Atlanta, Georgia, so much that we realized that you could make trips off of that highway and visit absolutely unique self-taught artists working in small towns in Mississippi, Alabama, and Louisiana. And so that's what we started to do in like right around 1990. And so I'm going to let Julie segue into one of our favorite artists that we started to visit over the years.
Okay.
Let her.
Is that okay?
We're
because that is something that
steering the ship.
No,
We're
good.
The vomit clocks.
Yes, I love vomit clocks, but I didn't know if y'all were going to bring a vomit clock on or a jello clock. I think those are intriguing. But y'all have over the years met so many outside artists, guys that are just way out in the backwoods or way out in the, just these unknown areas that are just really intriguing people. You've made friends with them. How do y'all find these people? How do you befriend them? Like, how did this begin? Because y'all were into this type of art. It's a big deal now, right? Like this.
I'd say so. Yeah.
It's huge, but y'all were way into it a long time ago. You and our buddy Andy Don. How did y'all get into this?
Well, so Bruce was talking about how we used to do a lot of flea markets, and we were doing a monthly flea market in Dallas in 1988. Is it 88? I think it's 88. 87, 88. We had just moved to Waxahachie in 87, so it was probably about 1988. A woman who was buying Fraternal Lodge stuff and a lot of anonymous folk art pieces from us said, I have someone I think you should meet. I think you'd really dig him. And we met Reverend J.L. Hunter, who was in South Dallas, and he was the very first artist we visited. And this is actually one of the very first pieces we ever bought of his. It's a milkman. He would find these limbs and then see the figure in them and build this. And so we met him, and it was life changing. It was a whole game changer because it was everything that we loved, but all of a sudden we could talk to someone and we could see his vision and why he did what he did, and maybe he didn't quite understand it, but he was obsessed with just keep creating these things. Every time we see a pile of sticks. And so it made us go back to our music roots and think about Talking Heads and REM and how they'd used various folk artists on their album covers around that time. And we started, as we would go do a flea market like Atlanta or New England, and Bruce is trying to
just trying to get the
Oh, he was trying to get him. So as we were doing flea markets and traveling, we would find these people, and we would look them up, and we'd call them, and I'd do a lot of detective work. So we'd get to a hotel, we'd rip the page out of the phone book and go track them down. No GPS, I can guarantee you.
Yep.
There were a lot of wrong turns and turns right at the whatever, and then they started collecting books about folk art. We were like, oh my gosh, people are kind of into this somewhere. And we would go to exhibits, we'd buy catalogs, and then that's how we'd learn about new people. And around that time, we also met Bert Hemphill, who was one of the founders of the Museum of American Folk Art in New York City. He came to visit us in Waxahachie, and we realized that everything that we were buying, old or new, liked this handmade aesthetic and this beauty out of something that someone saw and created something. And
Yeah.
it was kind of unexplainable, but it was the same thing he was liking. And he was the first person that we met where we were like, oh, other people might kind of think like we do. But it was rare because people tend to either collect art or antiques at that time. And when we had a shop here since 1987. In 1991, we changed it more as a gallery. And it was the craziest thing in the world for us to probably do that because there was no collecting of folk art necessarily. And, you know, here we are in Waxahachie, Texas, people wondering, what the hell is that?
Or where the hell is Waxahachie, right? For the people that are interested, right?
Exactly. Never a week goes by that someone doesn't say it incorrectly or ask how to say it here.
Yeah, right.
And then, you know, so we spent years of every Monday going to see Reverend Hunter. This is another piece of his, and his wife Ruby. And every Monday we'd go, we'd hear his Sunday sermon, we'd eat lunch together, and we'd talk about his art, and we'd buy art from him. And so we have a really incredible collection of Reverend Hunter's art, more so than so much, I mean, embalmment clocks. But he was just the launching energy and man that we were just so amazed by that made us want to go meet more people like him. And not that anyone was just like him, but it was that drive to create, not for art's sake. And they didn't understand exactly why they were seeing these things and having to make them out of whatever, whether it be a drawing or a sculpture.
Yeah, so you know what y'all have shown at the Webb Gallery. You'll read the descriptions of the artists and everything. It seems like there's a commonality of they have a really deeply religious background, almost an apocalyptic point of view. End of times is a huge theme.
Well, that's definitely
is that common, or is that just what I?
That's definitely one of the strong driving forces is faith. But it doesn't have to necessarily be religious faith. That was definitely, it might just be faith in humanity or faith in trying to make something happen. You know, a lot of this artwork can be made out of tragedy or loneliness. And it's kind of like faith in humanity to, you know, I need you, I'm lonely, this will make you get to me. So there's lots of different reoccurring themes of why people created outsider art or folk art that you see, and definitely religion and religious faith and kind of a way to put out a message, whatever, if it's religious or not religious, it's a good conduit, this art work, sure, because it is very heartfelt and soulful, and like I said, not necessarily created as an art piece, but as a language or something to convey. Whether it be Reverend Hunter, you know, seeing things in the wood and, you know, he's trying to share that, or African-American culture or religious or tragedy or loneliness. So, yeah, I mean, it's definitely one of the reasons that outsider art has been created.
Right. As this has gotten more popular, you know, you mentioned it earlier with this Reverend, you became friends with him, you had lunch with him, you went to his Sunday services. Y'all are really warm people, right? And I'm telling you that.
Oh, thank you.
It's not a question. I'm telling you, y'all are really warm people. Are you finding it now that this is kind of really a hot type of art now that's really popular? Are you finding it harder to find artists, or to find artists that trust you to kind of open up their homes or open themselves up to you? Or is it, are you still getting out there and making friends and finding these folks to be really receptive?
It's definitely continuing. Because we really realize that, well, people always say Webb Gallery is a folk art gallery or just outsider art or whatever, but ultimately it's really just kind of what we like that we decide to curate in there. And we still love the antiques and are looking forward to getting out on the road and doing some antiquing sometime in the future. because truly it is all about road trips, and that's how we discovered a lot of the artists. But there's so many different ways that people approach creativity that we never really pigeonholed ourselves by saying that people had to be one way or another. So actually the show that we have up right now is by a younger artist who was a tattooer who started to really spend a lot of time traveling alone and doing art in hotel rooms. And so we found his vision, a vision of a younger person, as unique and singular as just about any of the artists that we've ever met. So it's really encouraging to find younger artists that we're as excited about as, you know, like Reverend or whatever. It's something that's, you know, about being adaptable. One of the first artists that we showed here in this building in '94, William S. Burroughs, the beat writer. Mm-hmm. We got a chance to meet a few times, and
oh wow,
we showed his paintings here in '94, along with photographs by Bill Daniel of hobo graffiti and railroad moniker art. But anyway, William Burroughs has really been a big mentor to us, the way we think about the approach of things, and the idea of the random factor playing a huge part in the way that William would approach painting has an effect on kind of the way we select art. It's in kind of in a random way. But when we asked William what he thought about us showing his art in Waxahachie, he said it's as good a place as any. And I think that's a good thing to keep in mind, that you have to be adaptable, and mm-hmm. You know, every place that you go has positives and negatives. And the lesson that I think so many of the artists that work with what they've got is that they make do in absolutely transcendent ways with things that a lot of people would say a pile of sticks. I mean, what can you do with that? So I think that that's kind of what has affected us, you know, in the way that we approach things, is the very artists themselves and the work that we show has had a really profound impact on our taste and what we like and stuff.
I don't think that folk art is and kind of this genuine, naive narrative art is never going to go away, because it doesn't matter how the world changes. There's always going to be someone naive somewhere, and then,
right.
And yeah, that's a rarer thing, but there's always someone to tell a story. It's a language, and it's an individual expression. And, you know, I mean, like you had Maria and Caleb, and they have their own expression that's so beautiful, and they're doing it all in their own style. And it's mm-hmm. not that much different. It's just that this is more raw and kind of to the point and inspirational, like Bruce was saying, to using what you got and being adaptable and doing something where you can, true to your heart and without too much thought about, you know, overthinking it.
Right. That's really cool. So you mentioned getting back out on the road. Looking forward to that. Do you know, I mean, everything's kind of, we're in a holding pattern right now, but do you have an idea when you are going to hit the road again?
Oh my gosh, we had to cancel so much. We have traveled this winter, and we were both really itching. We were supposed to be on the way to see the Margaret Kilgallen exhibit up in Cleveland right now, which I'm sick about. And then we were going to hit some favorite flea markets in Ohio and Kentucky on our way home, would be next week. And then Bruce actually had an exhibit of his work scheduled in Melbourne, Australia, the 1st of June, that had to be canceled. Oh,
bummer. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's been like 2 years in the making. It was going to be with Robert Ryan and Daniel Higgs, and that was something we were really looking forward to.
Postponed. So
but it's
yeah. Just have you ever been to Australia before?
No, we have not.
Oh, no, for sure it's postponed. It's not canceled. It's only postponed.
Yeah, cool. It's just postponed. I think it'll happen next year, and I think we just all have to use this time to be a a little more creative, which I think of as a gift, because we tend to go and go and go and not stop and enjoy the things around us. And, you know, you've been here. We have a lot around us to enjoy.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So we get a few comments, you know, scrolling through. Someone asked about the banner behind you. Rather than take time to address the banner, and because honestly, a walk through your house or a walk through the gallery, even outside, we could spend days talking, right? I would encourage people when y'all are back, if the gallery isn't open, go visit the gallery because you've got so much to show.
I think we have all of our banners that are available in the gallery on our website.
Yeah, yeah. But I did want to ask about the vomit clock, because people were asking about jello clocks or vomit clocks. Yeah. I only discovered these things about 6 months ago, and they're the funnest things ever. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
You've got a really impressive collection.
Yeah.
All right.
I talked my girlfriend into buying one time, and it was purple, and I kept thinking about it. And later, I asked her whatever happened to it, and she said I sold it at my garage sale, and I was just like, I don't know why'd you do that? And so that weekend, I went to a flea market and bought 2, and then I just kept like setting my limit of $25 and buying them. Although, if you buy them on eBay or something like that, the shipping's more than the ugly thing. And one is ugly, but a bunch of them, the colors started to remind you of the Jell-O molds, and just, you know, they're crazy. And I think they were a kit that in the 60s and 70s that you got rocks, but some people were really creative and came up with all kinds of things in them. So, and Bruce has helped me, of course, gather a ton of them, and they just keep getting...
There's a rare owl. There's a vomit owl.
Probably my rarest vomit clock I keep down in my office, and it has peppermint candies in it.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And that's like, you know, the piece de resistance in the collection. But
yeah.
I have, at one point I counted, and there were like 115, and I know there's been some added since then. So Bruce put them in the windows when we had our windows redone, and so the light is beautiful in the morning.
I'm going to just give y'all a quick transfer to this is the clock. Yeah. And it's really amazing when the light comes through in the morning.
Yeah. There needs to be like a collective pronoun. You know, like you have a herd of cattle, a gaggle of geese. There needs to be a collective pronoun for just a grouping of vomit clocks. I don't know what that would be, but
yeah, vomitus.
a gag of vomit clocks or something.
Yeah, I don't know. I just recently found out that there was a whole group about this collecting of these. My friend Mike Zahn was visiting us from New York, and he told Bruce and I that there was a group on Facebook, and I was like, what? Are you kidding? And so I joined them, and I sent him some pictures, but it was, I don't follow up with them because some people loved it and some people were inspired by it, and I was just sharing it because I thought, you know, they look neat, but some people got mad and thought I bought too many, and I, you know, used them all up, and I'm like, I don't have time for that. You know?
Well, I like I said, I only became familiar with them about 6 months ago, and ever since then, I'm like, oh my gosh, I want one. They're so hideous that they're just amazing that I really would like to find one.
I have an extra one for you. You just let me know next time you visit.
Okay. I'll put it up here, and it'll be the bane of my wife's existence, but it'll be it'll look great in my living room. So
I would be glad.
Thank you so much. Hey, we're at time. It's going to cut us off immediately if I don't wrap this up. I really want to thank you all.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's been awesome. A big thank you to Caleb and Marie as well. These have been fun shows, and I look forward to seeing y'all down in Waxahachie soon.
Yes, looking forward to it.
All right, y'all take care.
Bye-bye.
Cool. All right, man. Week after week, this has just been so fun. We are kind of, I don't want to say we're coming to the end of this this social distancing, and that's what this really started from, was just kind of like a way to entertain my nieces and nephews and send a recording of this up over to my mom. So I wanted to keep it going as long as that's going. I feel like, in the coming Saturdays, it's going to be harder and harder to schedule people. But I want to keep this going, so we may actually move to, rather than a live show, I may continue these and doing them recorded. I think there's just so many interesting people, so many interesting collections out there. Andy Don, I see you commenting here. You're actually one of the people I would love to chat with sometime, so look for a message from me. But anyway, I want to thank everybody that's participated over the last 5 weeks. We'll keep this going, and pretty soon we're going to set up a session with Marcus for Margaret Chavez, just because he's just one of the sweetest people I know and a great singer-songwriter, and would like to have him come on and share what he has to share. He's a great storyteller and a fun person to chat with. Anyway, want to thank you all so much. Oh yeah, Electric Eye Studios, or Electric Eye in Oak Cliff. It is a private studio, so look for their website, look for their Facebook, or follow them on Instagram. Same thing with Bruce and Julie Webb. They have their Instagram handles, and then the Webb Gallery has an Instagram handle. Go visit them down in Waxahachie. They're all four of them awesome people. And I just want to thank you for spending your time with me this Saturday. I hope you all stay safe and stay healthy. And we'll catch you all here soon. This will be hopefully last week. Unfortunately, it didn't record, and it was a really great session. I'll try to get this to be saved, and I'll load it up on YouTube later on. If you want to share it out, feel free to do so. All right, this is Jimbo saying adios, and y'all take care of each other. Be good to your neighbors and love on your family, and we'll see y'all later on.